So Barack Obama is back making the rounds. Okay. He says that black men should be voting for Kamala Harris. And I just think that I have a lot to say about this. I think that it's time. It is time, Black America. It is time for us to revisit Barack Obama in general. I have to always remind you guys, like, I was a liberal or left-leaning. I never actually voted for Democrats, but I, too, thought that anybody that was saying anything about him was racially motivated. I cried the night that Barack Obama won. But I want to be clear. I've grown up since. I've got 3 kids now. I'm married. I'm seeing the world through a different way. I realize what the media is, and I realize how they really do think that Black people are stupid. And in the retrospect, there were definitely some very weird things about Barack Obama. For example, and this is just a fact, back in 1991, when Barack Obama was completely unknown to the public, he was working with a literary agency that was named Acton and Distal, okay? They were tasked with promoting his first book, which was a book that was meant to be entitled Journeys in Black and White, which actually never wound up being published. But in anticipation of his book being published, they were promoting Barack Obama and other authors that were on their roster. And they promoted them in a booklet, which they distributed to people in the publishing industry, like, hey, here are our authors that we want you to publish. And in the booklet, they included a biography of all of their clients. And this is the biography that they included of Barack Obama. Okay, take a look here. It says, this is real, 100% real. Barack Obama, the first African-American president of the Harvard Law Review, was born in Kenya and raised in Indonesia and Hawaii. The son of an American anthropologist and a Kenyan finance minister, he attended Columbia University and worked as a financial journalist and editor for Business International Corporation. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so the whole concept of, like I said, that's 100% legit. The whole concept of whether or not he was born in Kenya was not coming out of racist ideas, right? It wasn't because people were just trying to delegitimize him. It was because he had a literary agent, and that literary agent published a pamphlet, and that pamphlet said that he was born in Kenya. And then suddenly that changed, and they were like, no, never mind. He was born in the USA. That person who published this never gave an answer for why they wrote that. They tried to say, like, oh, like that maybe the literary agency just wrote that. Why would anybody just write that you're born in Kenya? It's like a weird thing to write. Okay, it doesn't matter in the scheme of things. He was already president for 8 years, but it's good to go back on that. And then, of course, there was this other odd thing that happened. Like, he did, by the way, grow up in Indonesia. That's a fact, right? He, like, the first 8 years of his life were spent in Indonesia. His mother moved him to Indonesia, and he went by a totally different name. He went by the name Barry Soetoro. Here's an old clip of journalist Matt Meager from Inside Edition revealing that truth. Just so you know, these were not conspiracies. Okay, take a listen.
As Senator Barack Obama has made his run for president, some have questioned his background, particularly the 4 years he spent as a child in Indonesia. He was educated in 2 schools, first a Catholic school and then later a public school. Matt Mahar traveled to Indonesia to take you to both of the schools the candidate attended.
This is the Assisi Catholic Grammar School in Jakarta, Indonesia. And Barack Obama is on his way to becoming its most famous former student.
Barack Obama.
The only record of Obama having attended the school is this old register. And look, it lists his name as Barry Soetoro. That's the name Obama took from his Indonesian stepfather, Lolo Soetoro.
Okay, so whatever you make of this, what we know is that Barack Obama was, first and foremost, right after she gave birth, his white mother is the person that raised him, okay? Her name is Stanley Dunham. There she is, right there. That is Stanley Dunham. Okay, he never lied about this. He did not grow up in a household with his Kenyan father at all, Barack Obama Sr., whatever. He was raised by his mother, Stanley Dunham, and then she married a person who worked for the Indonesian government as a geographer. She married Lolo Soetoro, and Barry Soetoro was born. You know, he then moved to Indonesia. He went to school in Indonesia, and then he gets sent back to Hawaii at the age of 10. So for the first 10 years of his life, I'm just going, okay, like, he was not exposed to Black people at all. He was exposed to Indonesians, and then he gets sent to Hawaii to get raised by his exceedingly white grandparents. Here's a picture of his grandparents. That's Madeline Dunham and Stanley Dunham, the person whose mother has the name of her father. So Then, yeah, he is in Hawaii as well. And in case you didn't know this, he was extraordinarily wealthy. You probably could figure that out by all of us moving around. That's why while he was in Hawaii, he was enrolled in a private school. He attended the Punahou School, where tuition is for grades K through 12. Tuition is $31,000 per year. That's today, so you can account for inflation, okay? But that's where his grandparents enrolled him, okay? So it's important to note also that in 1970, when Barry Obama got to Hawaii, there were only 5,925 Black people in all of Hawaii. Okay. And it's worth noting that 80% of those, north of 80% of those 5,000 Black people were in the military. He was not exposed to Black people at all, is what I'm trying to make the point. Okay. He had literally not a single part of his upbringing was he around Black people. There were no students, no Black students at his very expensive private school. Okay. There's no Black people in Indonesia. So he went there. His mother went to a school the same one that his dad went to in Hawaii, the same one that his stepdad went into Hawaii. Really kind of feels like he was a part of some weird military program. And then after that, after going to his $31,000 per year private school in Hawaii, he goes to Occidental College Occidental University or college, whatever it is, in California for 2 years, where he roomed with a white guy for the first year, white guy with blonde hair. He's written about it for his freshman year, and then moved to live off campus in his sophomore year with a Pakistani for 1 year. His dorm mates have described him as doing a mean Mick Jagger impression. Literally, I know I've heard the name Mick Jagger, but I had no idea that he was the lead singer of the Rolling Stones until today. I was today years old when I learned that. I'm just saying, I understand, like, people grew up in a household that listened to rock and roll. I didn't grow up in that household. MJ was not Mick Jagger for us. It was Michael Jackson. The whole reason we're doing this series is because somebody came for the Jacksons. That's the kind of household I grew up in. So then Barry Obama met and dated a woman in his sophomore year. Her name was Alexandra McNear. You might remember she's the one that released the letters that Barry wrote to her where he talked about his homosexual feelings. Like he says that he makes loves to men in his mind. And so he had like homosexual inklings. He then went to Columbia University and still dated Alexandra McNear and was writing her these letters at that time. Anyways, I'm just thinking, like, what part of Barack Obama's life gave him the authority to tell Black men how to act Black in America? That's what I'm asking you. What part of his life? Was it Hawaii? Was it Indonesia? Was it Alexandra McNear? At what point did suddenly, like, Barry Soetoro become the person who gets to tell Black men how to act in America? Because that's exactly what he's doing now. That's exactly what he has been doing. Is just because, like, once you do a photo op with Jay-Z or Diddy, suddenly, like, you're just, like, handed an award and gone, okay, now you're Black. Now everybody in the Black community has to listen to you. Because that's what it seems like. His history and his background is equally as shady as Kamala Harris's, if we are being frank. And they're bringing him out to essentially whip Black Americans into shape because, oh, they gave him the Black card. So now Black people better just listen to Barack Obama. So here he is suddenly lamenting the fact that Black men just aren't energetic enough for Kamala Harris. I'm sorry, Barry Soetoro, but you are going to have to sit your ass down. What about you is culturally Black? Barack Obama is not culturally Black. I'm sorry. It's time for us to accept that. Like I said, I was moved by him too in 2008. I thought, oh, okay, like I really didn't understand his background, and I questioned people who questioned him. But we have to just come to terms with the fact that we have been being played by Democrats for a very long time. And the reality is he is just as shady in terms of his background as Kamala Harris. I am a firm believer that they are breeding politicians. His background is almost too similar to Kamala Harris's in terms of literally no relation to the Black community, having so much wealth, and then as if they went through a school of what it is exactly that they should say to relate to the brothers, to relate to the brothers, to relate to the sisters. I am actually very happy that Black men seem to be taking a larger leap away from this. I hope that Black women will follow suit and recognize this, to see how ridiculous it is that a woman who is saying she's washing greens in a bathtub and a guy who's suddenly calling Black people brothers, despite having literally no introduction to what it means to be culturally a Black person in America. I hope that we all can become awakened, but I'm very grateful that Black men seem to be holding the line. Like, I am with that 100%.